Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here. So I got a special treat for you guys. This is not one of my usual videos. Instead, I have a guest video from a friend of mine, Manny from 2000books.com, who you've probably seen on this channel before. Anyway, he's put together a video that was really cool, really well done video on 15 ways to develop mental toughness. Now, I have to tell you that in this video, you're only going to get ways 15 through 10, I believe it is, and then ways 9 through 1. If you like those, you can actually get those if you purchase his 2x mental toughness, 2x mental toughness package, which is something that I highly recommend. It's a bunch of video summaries for a bunch of the top 60 books on mental toughness. So this is sort of a promo for that. I am letting you know, just full disclosure here. I don't want to hide anything. I've got nothing to hide because it's a really good program, and I highly recommend that you check it out. So anyway, this video is just an extra bonus that you will get if you purchase his 2x mental toughness package, which again, I recommend. So many of the books in there are really, really good, really, really solid, and Manny does an awesome job. So go ahead and check it out and check out the video. And if you want to see some samples of the 2x mental toughness, it's different than what you're about to see here. It's actually the summaries of the books themselves. If you want to see that, go and check out the sales page, or you can check it out here. It'll be in the description below. And there'll be some more links after this video. So here you go, 15 ways to develop mental toughness, the top 15 through 10, and here it is.
Research has now proven that mental toughness is one of the most important ingredients of success in all walks of life. Defined very simply, mental toughness is your ability to handle life's challenges and exploit them to your advantage. And in this series, we will talk about 15 ways to build mental toughness. Coming in at number 15 is the practice of self-responsibility. Put another way, you should never think of yourself as a victim in any situation. There are quite a few great books that talk about this idea, most notably Resilience by Eric Greitens, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, and The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden, who is the father of modern self-esteem movement. As per Nathaniel Branden, self-responsibility is one of the 6 pillars of self-esteem. In order to become mentally tough, we must take complete responsibility for our lives. We cannot be responsible for what happens, but we must take responsibility for how we act in face of what has happened. We have to take responsibility for our choices, our actions, and our values. We have to take complete responsibility for the achievement of our desires. Now here's the key. When we do not take responsibility for any part of our life, we automatically move into the victim mindset. A lot of people unknowingly surrender their personal power to certain situations and start believing that they are unable to move forward because of the situation at hand. They may not call or think of themselves as victims, but they are acting as such. However, in order to become mentally tough, we must take complete responsibility for our life in every aspect of our life. Our motto should always be, if it is going to be, it is up to me. No matter how challenging or difficult the situation, I have to take complete responsibility for how I will act. So here's a simple action you can take today to increase your personal responsibility. Ask yourself, what if every day I take 10% more responsibility for the area of life in which I am struggling the most? What would I do? How would I act or behave? Okay, moving on to number 14 is the idea that it is going to be 10x harder. In 2009, I went to a Tony Robbins live event called Unleash the Power Within. He opened the seminar by saying, "The biggest problem in life is that you think you should not have any problems." And I could not agree more with Tony. Way too many people in this world today are running away from their problems and hoping that their lives were easier. And this particular idea comes from the book Undefeated Mind by Dr. Alex Lickerman, and also from the book 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. When you are faced with big challenges in life, you must realize that it's not that your goal or your life is hard, it's that you did not anticipate it to be hard enough. You did not think it was going to be really hard. So in order to become mentally tougher, and live a great life, we must anticipate our life to be 10x harder than what we have anticipated it to be so far. And we must anticipate bigger problems and bigger challenges in life. We must anticipate that the accomplishment of our goal is going to be 10x harder than we thought it would be. We must tell ourselves that it's going to be very, very hard, and I will still make it happen. Here is the paradox in this thinking. When you expect things to be very hard, you immunize yourself against hardship and challenges. If you expect things to be hard and challenging, you persevere in face of those challenges because you know that is how it is supposed to be, and that makes you mentally tougher. At number 13 is the idea of relentless solution focus, and this idea comes from the book Executive Toughness by Dr. Jason Selk. Now, when we are faced with difficult situations, most people engage in what is called problem-centric thinking, or PCT. They focus on the problem and the difficulties associated with it. However, in order to become mentally tougher, we must relentlessly focus on the possible solutions at hand. No matter how difficult or challenging the situation, we must constantly ask ourselves, what is the one thing I can do which could move me forward towards the solution in this case? What is the one thing I can do no matter how small it is? Here's a simple exercise. Draw a mental chalkboard for the challenging situation you are in. On one side is the problem, on the other side is the solution. Ask yourself, what one thing can I do in the solution column right this moment? And then do it. Okay, so coming in at number 12 is the idea of the challenge response versus the threat response. And this idea comes from the book The Upside of Stress by Dr. Kelly McGonigal of Stanford University. In a study of GRE test takers, one group of students was taught to see pressure and anxiety as beneficial for performance, and another group was taught to see pressure as bad and something that negatively affects cognition. Now, the test was for 800 points, and the first group, which took the test and which was taught to see the pressure as beneficial, on the average scored 65 points higher than the second group, which was taught to see pressure as bad. Now, there's a real scientific reason for why there is such a drastic difference in performance just as a result of how we perceive a situation. When we think of a difficult situation as a challenge or as something that can help us, our mind and our body respond by invoking what is known as the challenge response, or the chemistry of courage. In this case, we're not necessarily calm, but we are excited to take on this challenge. Our blood vessels relax, our blood pressure lowers, and there is greater blood flow in the brain. As a result, our brain volume increases. On the other hand, when we think of a difficult situation as something that is a threat, our mind and body get into the primitive fight or flight mode. We invoke the threat chemistry and our body starts to prepare for a situation where there could be hurt and potential blood loss. Our blood vessels constrict, blood pressure goes up, and all the blood flows to the limbs so that you are ready to physically move and avoid any attack. But as a result, there's a limited flow in your brain, limited blood flow in your brain. This results in diminished brain performance. So here's a simple mental toughness hack. When you are faced with a challenging or stressful situation, ask yourself, am I viewing this situation as something that is potentially dangerous and life-threatening, or as a challenge that I can overcome? As soon as you think of the situation as a challenge you can overcome, you have become mentally tougher in that situation. Okay, coming in at number 11 is power questions. This idea comes from the book Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And as Tony Robbins often says, the quality of our life is determined by the quality of our questions. And a very powerful technique to become mentally tougher in any situation is to ask yourself empowering questions. When you are faced with obstacles and challenges, you need to start asking these empowering questions ASAP. And here are some questions you can ask yourself. How can I make this situation even 1% better? How can I make the best of the situation? How can I win in this situation? Why will I win in this situation? What is the one thing I can do right now? And my personal favorite questions in face of obstacles are, what is the positive in this situation? How will this obstacle become an advantage for me? How can I make this obstacle an advantage for me? Over the years, I've seen that every obstacle I face turns out to be an advantage in the long term. So my automatic default thinking is, how can I make this obstacle an advantage for me? So if you want to become mentally tougher, start looking for power questions in every situation. At number 10 is to live by your values. In her book Presence, Harvard University professor Dr. Amy Cuddy cites a very interesting research study. Test subjects were asked to give an impromptu speech in front of a group of very harsh judges who were all part of the experiment. The judges were constantly making the subjects feel that they were not doing a good job. And right after the speech, the test subjects were asked to count backwards from a random number, let's say, for example, 1078, down in steps of another random number, let's say 23. So it would be something like 1078, 1055, 1032, and so on and so forth. And as you can imagine, this can be a highly stressful situation for anyone. And in addition to this, the judges were giving these subjects very negative body language, telling them that their speech was not good, that they were not counting down fast enough, etc., etc. So as soon as the subjects were done with the test, the researchers took saliva samples of the subjects to measure their stress levels by measuring their cortisol levels. Now, here's the twist. Right before this experiment, the test subjects were divided into two groups. One half was asked to write about a random value. For example, it could be something like creativity or freedom or self-expression, whatever it is, some random value that the researchers had chosen and assigned to them. The other half was asked to write about their own personal values they hold very dear. And here's the kicker. The first test group, which wrote about random values, their stress levels rose up dramatically during this experiment. However, the second test group, which wrote about their personal values that they hold very dear, that group did not show any increase in stress levels during the experiment. What happened here? Well, those who wrote about their own personal values were able to stand tall in face of the obstacles because they were being true to themselves. They were not trying to be someone else. And that is essential to becoming mentally tougher. Now, coming in at number 9 is to tap into the power of your identity. When Arnold Schwarzenegger used to work out in the gyms in preparation for his bodybuilding championships, he would always be smiling. His peers would often ask him as to why he was smiling. For him, the reason was that he was smiling because he already saw himself as the winner of Mr. Olympia, Mr. Universe, and as a result, he would act according to that identity, and he would feel happy and excited all the time because he knew that he had already won. He was a winner. His identity was that he was the winner. He was Mr. Universe, and the actions and the feelings followed. Unfortunately, almost 99% of the people in this world are not living by their identity, but instead they're living by their feelings. This is how it unfolds for most people. Their feelings define their actions, and those actions over time mold their identity. So feelings lead to actions, lead to identity. But instead, we need to start with our identity. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who do I want to become is the first question we must ask ourselves. And once we identify our identity, we can take actions according to that identity, and those actions will lead to our feelings. So identity will lead to actions, which will lead to feelings. Peak performance coach Tony Robbins often says, identity is the most powerful force in human nature because we tend to act consistent with our identity. In fact, our identity sets the ceiling of who we can become.
Hopefully you enjoyed those ways of developing mental toughness, ways 15 through 10. But if you want to get the rest of it, it's real simple. He has the rest of the ways 9 through 1 on his website. All you have to do is go and purchase his 2 times your mental toughness package here. It's a really good deal, really good value. A lot of people that I know have purchased it and have really enjoyed it, so it's been very, very valuable to them. And like I said, I can personally attest to the books that he reviews there and that he pulls these extractions out from. These are books that I've read myself to develop my own mental toughness, and books that I highly recommend. But, it's difficult for you perhaps to read all the books that Manny and I have read on this subject, so this is why this is so valuable, is you can get a lot of the knowledge and the wisdom from these books. Not that you shouldn't read books on your own, you should of course, but are you going to read 50 books or 60 books on a particular subject? Probably not. So it's always good to, get that information condensed. And even if you are going to read those books, it's still good to get that information condensed for you. I've actually gotten a lot of value from Manny's stuff, and that's why I shared it on this channel. So anyway, full disclosure for you guys, if you don't want to buy it, you don't have to buy it, but I highly recommend it. I think it's really valuable. And if you like these tips on developing mental toughness, you're going to want to get the rest of them. Like I said, it's part of the 2 times mental toughness package. Go check it out here. At least go check it out and see what you think. And hopefully you enjoyed the video. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Take care.